Hi, I'm Mark Madison at the National Conservation Training Center in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. And today we have a very special guest. We have Sharon Schafer with us, who wears many hats. She's a wildlife biologist, an artist, and a photographer. And she just opened a new photography show out here, a wildlife photography show called Becoming Animal. It's been a big hit already. And she spoke to us last night and did a little tour of the art show. And we kind of see this as the kickoff to the American Conservation Film Festival, which is happening out here this weekend. So Sharon, welcome to Shepherdstown. We're so happy to have you here. And I thought I'd just begin, if you could tell us a little about the art you do.
Well, I started out as a wildlife biologist, and I always say that I'm wildlife biologist by training, but artist and photographer by passion. And it wasn't enough for me just to be a biologist. You know, I loved being out in the field. I loved learning about the animals, all this kind of thing. But I also missed the art side of my life. So I started doing photography, and then the photography led to artwork. And then I finally have figured out how I can put the two together and use them as a tool for conservation, an educational tool.
And you set up your own studio, Skydance Studios. Tell us a little about that.
Well, I'd been working out at Red Rock Canyon as a hike leader, as an interpreter, and I saw that there really was a need for somebody that could do both things. And that's when I set up Skydance Studio, and I do wayside signs and exhibit work and create media libraries for the different parks and a number of things like that.
And you've also worked with Desert Refuge.
Yes.
So thank you, we appreciate it.
Oh,
Let's look at some of your photographs and,
okay.
And maybe you can describe them to us.
Okay, well this particular one is a desert tortoise, and that was taken out at Desert National Wildlife Refuge. And I just followed this little guy along as he was eating the prickly pear. This one is kind of a close-up. That's of a Laysan albatross. And that was on Midway.
Midway, huh?
Yeah, Midway Atoll, National Wildlife Refuge. And that was the most amazing place to go. It was such a pleasure, such an honor to be there and see the nesting albatross. This one, actually, that's a great blue heron, and that was taken down in the Galapagos. But they tell you as a photographer, always keep the eyes in focus, and so I got both
you got both sets of eyes in focus for that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
But yeah, it was pretty amazing. And what else? Oh, that's Tropic Bird. That's also from Midway Atoll. And it was just an amazing day, and the winds were quite high, and the birds were just kind of fluttering, almost staying in place, almost kiting in the wind. So it actually was pretty easy to get the photograph, but when you look at them, they're such athletes, you know?
Yeah.
And this also was Midway. Midway won my heart over, that's for sure. And this was a turtle, and it was eating jellyfish. And when I'm doing educational programs, I love to show this because you can really understand how they could easily mistake plastic for their food. And once again, Midway. And that was a red-footed booby, and it was bringing nesting materials to its mate. And what I do after I photograph is that I then do sketches, go back to my studio. Most of my artwork is done in my studio. And so I do sketches, kind of to give me more of a feel of the animal, to kind of understand the detail of the animal. Because with my science background, if I'm going to do a painting, I want it to be accurate, you know.
So do you sketch from the photographs you've taken?
Yeah, most of the time I do that. Sometimes I sketch in the field, but not that often. I would rather collect reference material, and I can kind of collect more in a hurry with the camera. I think, let's see, I think the next one, leads this, I'm sorry, the sketches then lead to paintings. And I like to paint, especially with acrylic on a hard board, on a clay board. And again, I try and keep both the plants and animals really accurate. I think I have one last one here. And this is double-crested cormorants, and they nest down on the Colorado River, quite close to where I live.
It seems to me it's relatively rare people that do so much photography and painting.
I think I don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
You have to make up your mind one of these days.
Yeah.
How do you see your photography and your painting and the talks like the one you gave last night as helping communicate conservation biology to people?
Well, I think conservation or art is such a tool for conservation, and I think oftentimes it's kind of undervalued and overlooked. But I think with art, you can evoke emotions, and then once you get somebody caring, once you get those emotions going, then that'll lead to being able to change their thought or spur them on to action. So I think it's something, I mean, all the parks have been created with the arts. I mean, you go back, you know the history, the paintings of Thomas Moran helping to create Yellowstone, the paintings of Thomas Hill helping Yosemite. And there's just over and over and over again, we see how powerful the arts are. And I think sometimes as scientists and conservationists, we kind of forget that, and we get almost bogged down in the day-to-day fights that we have. We forget to use the arts as a tool. And I think there's an army of artists out there that want to be invited to help. And I think it's something we got to work on more.
Now, you have a wildlife biology degree from Humboldt State University.
Yes, yeah.
And how does that help you as an artist and photographer?
Oh, absolutely essential. I mean, because with what I do, you know, I want it to be accurate. I want to give accurate information to the public when I do my talks and the conservation work that I do. And also, I just love it. I mean, I just love learning about plants and animals and the natural world and how it all fits together. And I love traveling and seeing that all around the world.
How hard is it to capture those photographs? Those are really beautiful ones from the Galapagos and from Midway Atoll. Did you have to take 100,000 digital images to get those, or did you have to camp out in a blind for 10 hours?
With
it looks
mosquitoes
effortless.
biting me.
Yeah, when you show them here with the birds in air and the sea turtles.
It's such a pleasure being out there. I kind of lose track of time, and yes, you have to take a lot. I think maybe one advantage I have over some wildlife photographers is because of my training as a biologist, I kind of know more what to expect from the animals, the behavior and where they might be and things like that. But yeah, you have to be out there a lot, and I love every second of it.
What are the hardest animals to photograph? So we appreciate them more.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really hard question to answer.
As an amateur, I would guess a slow-moving tortoise. The Galapagos might be relatively easy, whereas birds might be more difficult to capture.
Yeah, I suppose birds in flight is always a challenge, and I really enjoy that. I'm going to be teaching a class down at Arizona Sonora Desert Museum just on how to photograph birds in flight. But I don't know, every animal has its own unique characteristics, and the hard part, the real hard part, is trying to draw that out and show it to somebody else. You know, try to capture the essence of that animal.
That's a really interesting point. So do you know what the characteristic is before you photograph it, or before you draw the animal, or do you pull it out of the photographs?
Yeah, I guess sometimes, because I've been around animals an awful lot and been in the field a lot, I kind of have a feel about it. But when I go like some different place in the world and I'm seeing animals I've never seen before, I spend a lot of time just watching, even before I start doing photography. And then the photography is a way I can capture that. And then when I look back through my photographs, I start seeing characteristics or body postures or things that they were doing that I didn't see before.
One of the interesting things about your career is you've worked closely with the Soil Conservation Service, BLM, Fish and Wildlife Service. How do you find professional conservationists react to your art?
Oh, they're my biggest fans. I
This
love
one
it.
included.
Well, thank you, thank you. They see what I'm trying to do, and they see that I care so much about it, and I think they like the fact that I can walk into a meeting and talk as a biologist or talk as an artist, and I can bridge that gap sometimes for them. And sometimes I think outside of the box from what they normally think of, and perhaps I can give them some ideas of how to use the arts to further the message that they're trying to get across.
Are there environmentalists or other artists that inspired you?
Oh, actually one guy that really inspired me was Frederick Dellenbaugh. Do you know who he is?
No, I don't. Tell me who he is.
Perhaps he's not the most fabulous artist, but the way he lived his life was just extraordinary. He was a young kid that went on Powell's second expedition,
Okay.
and he was the photographer and artist that went with him. And I don't know, his sense of adventure and exploration, I think, just really inspired me. And he went on to form the Explorers Club, and and worked all over the world. But he used the arts as a way to get across conservation messages.
You've been all over the world too. You've been to Midway, Galapagos. Are there other places you've gone to photograph wildlife?
Oh yeah, a lot of places. Amazon, Namibia, a lot of trips to Antarctica, the Arctic, Svalbard. So yeah, I've been very lucky with that.
Do you have a favorite? As a photographer, not
Antarctica. I think.
Antarctica?
Yeah.
But that would seem to be the place that might have the least amount of wildlife compared to like the Amazon and so on.
It is overwhelming down there. It is so amazing. It's probably the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life. And there's one place on one of the sub-Antarctic islands, South Georgia is the name of the island. And you get off and land on the beach and you start looking and you see 300,000 pairs of king penguins. It's more life than I've seen anywhere in one place before, and it's overwhelming. And yeah, I think that's my favorite.
We also have a little film
Yeah.
that you're going to share with us. Can you set that up for us?
Yeah, sure. What I like to do is use my photographs, my sketches, my paintings, and put them together. I've put them together as museum shows. The one I'm going to show you actually has to do with Desert National Wildlife Refuge.
Great.
And so it'll be a series of photos and sketches and then the finished product. So it's kind of basically the way I work. So,
Let's watch that.
okay.
So that was Desert Refuge, which is our largest refuge in the lower 48 states.
Yep.
And a nice synopsis of how you do your work and also how talented you are. Sharon, we really appreciate you cutting a little piece of time out in between the art show and the American Conservation Film
I'm
Festival.
looking forward to that.
It's going to be great. Starts this evening, so thank you so much for coming. Thank you for tuning in. And like I said, for the next 2 weekends, we're going to be hosting the American Conservation Film Festival here in Shepherdstown, an annual event we have every year. We bring in filmmakers and artists to share conservation with the public. So thank you very much.
Thank you.